I was saying come our channel so how say AGH politics happening. Yambo in rap political highways no eja de ma enya asem koto akra. Na Ministry of Sports omo ho acho mu awo ayepa committee a enya asem koto akra. Na duplicated claims of 30 million Ghana cedi etimi haitu ma onia mena wakasei omo ajemre na omo eyi omo ano ewo ayepa committee eho demongram na yehwe ne yeko ani de eba.
Duplicated claims. 30 million claims were rejected as these transactions were already captured in the Ministry of Finance schedule and under BTAs. Out of that 107 million, 30 million was rejected because there were duplications.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. From the perspective of the ministry, there was no duplication. We were requested by the Ministry of Finance to submit our liabilities as of 31st December 2024. And we did submit all liabilities that were outstanding as of that date.
Let me remind you that you just took an oath. Do you have a copy of the report?
Yes, Honorable.
If you don't understand, you ask me, and I'll repeat my question. The auditors came. Were you part of the exit interview?
Yes, I was.
Didn't they tell you about this 30 million?
Honorable Chair, I was explaining this. If you kindly allowed me to finish, you understand.
Did they talk about the 30 million? There are only two answers, yes or no.
Yes, they talk about the 30 million.
Okay.
But, Honorable, it is not a duplication from the ministry's perspective, and that is what I was explaining to you, Honorable Chair. If you allowed me, I will continue the explanation.
Continue. The whole world is listening to you.
Honorable Chair. So we submitted our liabilities as of the end of December 2024. That liability, as submitted by Ministry of Finance, did not capture any BTA. Although we have processed some transactions within the gift mix that are at the BTA level, they had not been paid as of end of December. So when we were asked to submit the liabilities, we gave those that were in the form of BTA and those that have not even matured to the BTA level to Ministry of Finance. It is the Ministry of Finance that gave the BTA details to the auditors. So I remember at one of the meetings...
Please stop it right there. You submitted something to Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Finance forwarded it to the auditors. And now you are sitting here saying that what? It is Ministry of Finance. Where did all those documentation and invoices and monies to that amount that is being termed as duplication, where did it originate from? It did come from Ministry of Sports. Ministry of Finance does not conjure figures. Ministry of Finance works with the figures that the MDAs provide to them. Let's get it straight. Ministry of Finance will every day work with the figures that the ministries, departments, and agencies submit to them. So please, don't sit here and say that you submitted this and the Ministry of Finance that forwarded something different from what you submitted. Your issue is answer to the duplicated amount of 30 million. You go, you finish, you answer to the other things that you have been cited for. That is why we are here. Don't come and sit here and accuse any ministry, department, or agency for something that you yourself should have done and done right. Something that you yourself submitted to the Ministry of Finance. Please, respectfully.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm answering the question with regards to the 30 million. It is not a duplication, and I emphasize. When we asked of our liabilities, we submitted. Some liabilities have matured to the level of BTAs. So at the meeting with the Ministry of Finance, it was agreed that they should net it off. The BTAs, because they've gone through the process, their liabilities have gone through the process to be at the BTA level, there is the need to maintain them. And so we did not submit the liability separate and BTA separate. So there is no duplication coming from our end.
So did you, respectfully, did you say this to the auditors during the exit meeting?
Yes.
Did you explain to them?
Yes, we discussed, and the Ministry of Finance, we discussed that.
No, I'm not talking about Ministry of Finance. I'm talking
Yes.
about the auditors who came to, audit your books. Did you explain this to them?
Yes, we did.
Let me tell you, if you are submitting liabilities and you know very well that some have gotten to the BTA stage, you don't add it to it. When you add it, it is duplication. It's as simple as that. When you are submitting arrears, outstandings, and you, the ministry, you know that some of the invoices or your submissions are at the BTA stage, and you would know because you will have to process it on the gift miss. So you know those ones that are at BTA stage. If you go ahead and you submit that as existing arrears, it is called duplication. So we don't want to sit here and be going back and forth. That is the truth. It is called duplication. And that is why the auditors cited the 30 million as you can shake your head, but we are speaking to what is in the report, not what you come to sit here and say you are answering to. This is what is in the report. You should have challenged the auditors there and then, but you have stated here that you had those BTAs even in the outstanding claims. And if you had the BTAs in the outstanding claims and you refused to take them out and you sent it to Ministry of Finance, what were you expecting Ministry of Finance to do? Because it was for onward submission to the auditors, and they did exactly that. Minister, we cannot challenge what the auditors have put here. He should have challenged it when and they had the opportunity to do so. So he can shake his head, but we are speaking to the facts. That is right in front of us here. And that, what he did, is called duplication. You don't need a prophet to tell you this.
And Minister, I wanted to go on with the young man. You said, what's your position?
Honorable Chair, Director, Internal Audit.
Director of Internal Audit. Okay, you are disputing the 30 million.
Duplication.
When Madam Abno Seasa explained to you, did you understand that if you are adding, did you understand her explanation on duplication?
Honorable Chair.
If you didn't understand, let me move on, sir. We are not here to have a shout match. Master, this one I can just hand it over to Yoko. Then you can, and then Auditor General, Attorney General. Then you guys go and sit down and then discuss it. They came there when they asked you, there were some unsupported claims. A claim of 35.8 million. This was 2024. Was charged as cost of 6,000 police officers deployed for the All Africa Games. Could not be supported. Documents such as deployment registers, duty rosters, attendance logs, or official movement orders were not available to substantiate this claim. In addition, a bill for 455,000 was submitted to the Ministry of Sports for the improvement of water supply by the Evendi Hostel, Hostel, used to host All Africa Games. No documents were available to substantiate this claim. Now, the 35 million for the police officers, did you have any documentation?
Honorable Chair, the ministry also raised questions about the 35 million because of lack of documentation. Thank you.
You raised questions?
Yes.
But you had paid that amount?
No.
Or you hadn't paid that amount?
We hadn't paid.
So this was part of the rejection?
Yes. So.
And now you were talking about, what do you call it, exchange rate.
Honorable Chair.
Is it part of the exchange rate?
Honorable Chair, I said that predominantly the differences arise out of exchange rate, but there are other ones. So
How
this is
much
part
of it was because of exchange rate?
Honorable Chair, unless I do the computation, the percentage.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you said unless you do the computation, we are looking at 3 different infractions in the book. One is a 30, another is a 35, and the other is a 36. If you casually put these 3 together, you are looking at almost about a 90. And the thing we are talking about is 107. So ordinarily, you are looking at a differentiation of about 17. So if you say predominantly, it is not even up to a 20% of that. So obviously that could not have been. You just could have studied the infractions well and spoke to those infractions. But you see, when the auditors and us here talk about the duplication, take your time and appreciate the position from where the auditors and we are also coming from, so that when next time you are given the opportunity of submitting these claims, you don't make the same infraction. You are being asked to bring outstandings to me to pay. Along the line, you've made several transactions that you brought to me that I have processed to the position of a BTA. You brought me all those documentations associated with those. When I ask you tomorrow, and you include the same thing you brought to me yesterday, upon what basis and what documentations are you going to add on to those ones? Those claims you've already brought to me, and you resubmit the same claims to me again in another day. Obviously, it will be duplication. Because the person has already acknowledged the first one. You understand? So when you are asked to submit, and you know one has already gone, you've supported them with all the documentations. What documentations are you supporting the second one with? So yes, you probably may disagree, but the point is that those things went twice. Do you understand? They did. So obviously, it would be because already in the books of the finance, you brought those documentation that they've acknowledged that they are going to pay. And in your book that you are bringing today, you've again included that for us to pay. So they will produce all of those too, your accounts with them. It's like doing a bank reconciliation. Unpresented checks would have to be taken off from one of those ones. But if you still hold on to those two, you would obviously will sway one of your books, either your cash book or your bank balance. And that becomes a problem. So that is the point. And secondly, you said you raised issues with the 35 million. Who submitted the 35 million claim?
Before we move to the 35 million, I think the auditors and the committee is right in terms of the analysis of the duplication issue. The understanding from the audit point and their submission is looking at conclusive payments and not factoring BTAs, a payment that has reached the BTA level as having been considered. I think that is erroneous. And so factoring it as duplication is right. And I believe that a cue is taken, and in future, I don't think that they have to repeat that you should check payments that have reached that stage and take them off when you are submitting your liabilities. Thank you.
But, Honorable Minister, thank you for that statement. But it's worrying if an internal auditor who had the chance to talk to the auditors at the time of the exit interview is coming to sit here to argue. I'm very concerned. I am very, 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 very concerned. And then let me remind the public that it got to a time, Ministry of Sports, we used to change a minister almost every year. Ministry of Sports, we used to change a minister every year. If we can't understand this duplication, I don't understand why we should change a minister every year. Maybe we need to change everybody in the ministry every year and keep the minister. We are talking, this amount that you are talking about exchange rate is only 14 million. Only 14 million.
You said primarily.
Primarily, it's only 14 million.
Out of 100. Out of both, and then you
So we are moving on from the 30 million that the minister has said it was duplication. And sir, if an internal auditor, up your game. Now, unsupported claims, 35.8 million. Just for 6,000 police officers. 6,000 police officers. That was the so-called, I don't know whether they call it Africa Games or All Africa Games.
Chairman, is African Games.
It's Africa Games. And they spent 35.8 million 2024 for police officers, and we don't have documentation on it. How? Ministry of Sports. How? And you want to sit here and come and argue?
Chairman, with respect, on that matter, internal auditor, you said you raised issues with that at the Ministry of Finance.
No, with the police, when they submitted the bill.
When they submitted the bill,
Yes.
who did the scheduling with the police for them to be able to deploy that number of people?
Please, the LOC.
The reason why I ask is this: who, once answering that, and who submitted that bill as an addition to the outstandings of the ministry to the Ministry of Finance, all in your schedule of payables?
So on the scheduling, since we have the executive chair of the LOC for Accra 2023 here, let him speak to that. So we'll get back to the submission. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. I mean, this was the bill submitted by the police at the end of the games, and I was really baffled when the bill was submitted to me because we didn't reach that agreement. Initially, they were to have policemen to assist in carrying out police duties. We were initially even feeding them. Then they pulled out. And from nowhere, at the end of it, they brought this bill. And I wrote to them to justify why such a quantum. And they couldn't justify. So that is where we've gotten to. I was shocked to the marrow with the kind of bill they brought. And I said, please give us justifications and break it down to support what you are claiming.
How many weeks did the games go on for?
We started from the first, second, third, with regard to the early games. But officially, the game started from 8th to 23rd. But we had early games. So give or take, let's say we had about 2 weeks.
2 weeks of games.
About 3 weeks. Let's say from 1st to 23rd. So let's take it for 3 weeks.
Let's be generous and make it 4 weeks. Let's be generous and make it 4 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, you'll be stretching it.
So, okay, I'm just trying to be generous today because I'm in white shirt. Let's make it 4 weeks. If the police is charging you 35.8 million for 4 weeks, what is their budget for the whole year for the police force in Ghana?
Mr. Chairman, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Doug, maybe his guess will be as good as yours, but let me ask, how did this bill find its way to the Ministry of Finance?
So now let's get the auditor to deal with the internal auditor, how something that he says the ministry itself raised questions got submitted to Ministry of Finance when the answers have not been fully provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we request for further evidence to be able to establish, the auditors also came in. We did submit it, but indicate that this one ourselves we are
No,
not.
the auditors came in only after your
The
submission.
submission. So that should not
We
even be a point.
submitted before it was given to the auditors to come and authenticate.
Good.
So you have submitted, you said earlier that you raised concerns yourself when the police submitted the bill. But you still went ahead to submit it to the Ministry of Finance, who then invited the auditors to look at what you have submitted. The question is, how did you submit what you have raised questions on yourself? That's what they want to know.
Yes, thank you. We got assurance from the police that they will provide the supporting documents.
Internal auditor. Internal auditor. Internal auditor. So now you see, if the auditors therefore raise a query of dubious claims, would they be wrong?
No, absolutely they are not
good.
wrong.
So if it's dubious, the person who submitted the dubious claims, what has that person done?
The person is submitting a dubious claim is misleading public office.
And to mislead the public office, does it come with sanctions?
Honorable Chair, some lessons truly have been.
We en sama huro tim ko so channel so mami ena wat so jemre da sane so ba den dia dumbi edomenia yebesen Asia